Why does science have such a hard time solving consciousness? It is everything. All that you experience and feel, everything you are is through that lens. Consciousness is usually defined as a kind of awareness of our surroundings and our own self. And yet, we haven't been able to scientifically answer exactly what it is. But with the rise of AI, it's more important than ever that we deepen our understanding of this phenomenon we all experience. I'm Ashley Christine, and here's how it works. For many years, studying consciousness was considered a pseudoscience, a casual hobby for those who were either retired or religious and had nothing serious to do. But what was once considered a philosophical exercise has now become an explicit necessity. At the bare minimum, we know it helps us function. Earth is a world of storms, animals, competition, and we needed something to help navigate all of that data. In the beginning, life was simple, but at some point, there was so much sensory information that we began to experience it. We had pain and we had pleasure. Then we had curiosity, emotion, self-reflection. We became aware of ourselves. This is the point where scientifically we struggle because consciousness can't be directly measured. I can't prove you're as real as I know I am because I can't get inside your head and experience it the same way. It's subjective, not objective. Therefore, not fully satisfying the scientific method. You might think that we already have a means of measuring consciousness, like brain scans and fMRIs. Maybe you or a family member had one of these procedures done and you got to watch your brain light up on a monitor. But that's not entirely consciousness either. Functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, is a brain scan that tracks blood flow to show which part of the brain is active at a specific time. There's also an EEG that can track electrical activity. So yes, we can track blood flow and cellular communication. But just because we can see which part of your brain is lighting up when you play the violin or solve a puzzle doesn't mean we can see your experience of it. So where is it? In the beginning, there were single-celled organisms swimming in simple soup. A couple of billion years later, things got a bit more complex. There were multicellular organisms and then animals. And around 70,000 years ago, evolution took another turn into what some like to call the cognitive revolution. This is right in the Neanderthal and Homo sapiens era, so this is a critical moment. It's the emergence of fiction. Basically, when we started to imagine things. At first, sitting around a campfire telling stories doesn't sound like a big deal until you realize how much of our world is imagined. Money, the thing our entire global economy depends on. Poetry, artwork, country borders, it's all made up. A planet of 8 billion people wouldn't be able to function unless we could all agree that these made-up things are real enough so we can organize and create a functional society. There are many theories as to why the human mind evolved to do this, but it does allow for larger societies. It increased our language skills and ability to cooperate, but it came with a price. The human brain is an incredible consumer of energy. It's only 2% of our body weight and yet consumes 20% of our food supply, which is unique. In the animal kingdom, you want to be big or fast, one of those two, and we're not either. Intelligence is our survival mechanism, and that has given us the ability to dominate this planet in an unprecedented way. There have been billions of species over the eons, and yet only one of us could build a rocket ship. Pretty crazy. But to say that we are the only ones that experience consciousness because of this intelligence is misleading. They may be connected, but they are not the same thing. Intelligence is what a system can do, while consciousness is what a system experiences. We can't even agree on intelligence in the first place. It's why we struggle to create a standardized test for high school students or an IQ test. So why would it be the determining factor of whether or not a being is conscious? After all, a calculator can solve an equation faster than you can, but that doesn't mean it's a conscious being. So intelligence can't be the exclusive form of measurement. Some scientists like diagrams like these that help represent the conscious space. It has nothing to do with intelligence or developmental age. It's simply 3 sections: aware, awake, and connected. Aware is forming thoughts, inner monologues, imagery. It exists outside of an external stimulus, meaning that it doesn't need the world to trigger it. You can imagine snow, for example, without it literally snowing in front of you. Awake is your eyes are open and you can respond to external stimulus. And connected is you are connected to the world, as in your senses like smell and touch are experiencing the environment. You exist somewhere in this box at any given time. Normal consciousness is the green section on the top right corner, and that's your typical state when you have all three. Not all three would be like when you're sleeping or under general anesthesia. We can use technology to roughly estimate where in the box you are, but just because we know which parts of your brain are lighting up doesn't mean we can identify the experience. Take optical illusions. The Rubin face is a popular illusion where you can see either a chess piece or two faces. The brain is receiving the same information either way, but you can switch back and forth. We, on the outside, can't identify which one you're experiencing. We just know that you're seeing something. There are mammals and some species of birds that can also fit into this box. A mirror is a simple example. You put an animal in front of a mirror, and if they don't attack it, but rather turn or inspect themselves, then it appears they're aware it's them. Not a different creature, it me. We study the brain in these experiments for both human and animal because the assumption is that's the seat of consciousness. We assume that's where it's located because there does appear to be a connection. The idea that consciousness arises from physical matter, so the brain, is called materialism. The thing you need to understand is that most of your brain isn't conscious anyway. The overwhelming majority is fully automated. That means much of what you're doing every second of every day happens without your knowledge. Take walking, digesting food, dodging a ball that's being thrown at you. You're not consciously managing your reaction time or every little bone in your foot when you walk. These things happen without you, so to speak. Your subconscious runs in the background, handling the overwhelming majority of tasks that you need to survive. The reason why is to help you make decisions as fast as possible in a complex environment. Ask any programmer how complicated executing a single task can be, and you'll quickly realize that even the simplest of programs require a lot of code. The more your brain can do without being bogged down by the approval of your conscious self for every little thing, the faster it can make decisions and avoid danger. A great analogy of this is a country. Try to imagine everything happening in the United States at this very moment. A traffic jam in Minneapolis, a sewer pipe in Manhattan, a cornfield in Kansas. There is so much going on that you couldn't possibly take in everything. So you just want a snapshot, a daily newspaper to sum up the important events. That is your conscious self receiving just those critical occurrences. Your conscious self takes credit for like everything happening, but really only oversees a tiny portion of it. You learn aspects of this in therapy, right? You have an immediate reaction to something and your therapist will say, let's slow down, start from the beginning, figure out where that came from. This is your conscious self trying to decipher what the bulk of your brain has been doing behind the scenes. You might be wondering why we can't just hook someone up to an fMRI or EEG and ask them to ponder some philosophical question and just see where the higher thought is happening. But that is an oversimplification of the process. If you're writing a poem and the limbic system or frontal cortex light up on the monitor, that doesn't mean everything else goes dormant. It's just that's where the bulk of the activity is taking place. The rest of your brain is still doing stuff because it is a network of interconnected systems that are working together. So why do we even bother looking at the brain? As of right now, science operates under the assumption that consciousness is being generated by the brain because we don't have any evidence it comes from anywhere else. The global neuronal workspace theory, or GNWT, is one of the leading theories that puts consciousness on a kind of stage. Let's say a bird lands by your window and starts chirping. That moment is being thrown onto the stage, presented for all to see, and sent to the other parts of your brain where they guide your attention or action. There is also the integrated information theory, or IIT. This is a more mathematical approach where there's a lot happening, but you don't experience all of it because it's bundled together into a single stream of consciousness. The brain is very complex, and that complexity makes consciousness. If we take that direction in defining consciousness, it would make it easier to classify artificial intelligence systems because they're mathematically based and also complex. But IIT uses a lot of assumptions right now and has become pretty controversial over the years. So the stage theory is more popular than the math theory. To be fair, there are a lot of theories out there. Here are just some, and yet none have been proven. It is important that we apply every effort into the study because we don't want to accidentally create consciousness and have a 21st century Frankenstein crisis. Artificial intelligence is trained on human responses to generate human responses. That's why AI is so difficult to distinguish. The point is for it to feel human. But there are some notable differences between a biological brain and a technological one. For starters, a biological brain isn't just processing information from the world, it's having chemical interactions with it too. Our cells use and react with oxygen, glucose, calcium, and we respond to these elements of the natural world. We also have free will, maybe, and don't rely on an external stimulus to make decisions if we don't want. A computer brain can only execute commands with the given information we provide. It doesn't initiate its own moves, at least not without programming. Unless we very specifically tell it to do a thing, it won't do it. It's like a cursor on a Word document. It blinks, waiting for you to type a letter. It won't generate a word on its own. Generative AI generates content like images, music, or text, but that is still based on a prompt by the human user. It needs a huge source of data to draw on, which is usually the internet, and it generates new material based on that source. Large language models, or LLMs, like ChatGPT are great examples of this. ChatGPT needs to be given a prompt to carry out an action. It won't initiate a search for squirrels unless you ask to look it up. Every program, even a super advanced one, is essentially just waiting to be asked to do something. Remember this box? Awareness is the ability to have inner thoughts or imagery without an external stimulus. It doesn't need the outside to trigger it. A machine would have to possess some form of this to be considered for consciousness, or it's no different from a calculator. Artificial general intelligence, or AGI, is the kind of AI you see in movies, where machines have sentient emotional experiences and we explore what it means to be human. While the general concept of AGI exists, the precise framework does not. There is no consensus in the scientific community on what would qualify as AGI, what would it look like, or how would we achieve it. It's just kind of a broad term for human-like or greater than human-like intelligence. AI would have to meet a few qualifiers to be considered a conscious being that it can't right now, such as having its own initiative and understanding context. A machine with the ability to understand context would be like having a robot butler, where you come home after a bad day at work and it asks, "Do you want me to make you dinner?" And you say, "Yes." But the robot looks at you and asks, "Are you okay? Would you like me to draw you a bath instead?" That is a machine registering that something is wrong and taking the initiative to ask if you want something else outside of its parameters of human comes home, machine make food. Now, to be fair, you could theoretically already create a program to do exactly that. Maybe we have a machine recognize certain facial reactions, and if you display one, then it shifts to plan B. It would look like it understood context, and let's be real, some humans can't even do that. Which brings us to the existential crisis of, what if there are qualifiers for consciousness that a machine can pass, but a human fails? Then what? The farther you dig in this rabbit hole, the more you realize how easy we can be impersonated. That's why we need to have a robust description of consciousness, because as we've seen with our creations, we can be imitated too. The gray area between is it real or not real is where a line needs to be drawn so we know for sure what's going on. We did kind of have one there for a bit. The Turing test is a behavioral experiment to see whether or not a machine is thinking like a person. It's named after Alan Turing, a British mathematician from World War II, who is often credited as one of the founding fathers of artificial intelligence. The idea is that you engage with a computer, and if you can't tell whether or not it's a person on the other end, then the machine is so convincingly human that it passes the Turing test. The test doesn't have any specific parameters, it's more of a vibe check. We've reached the point now where some people probably wouldn't know the difference anyway, and that's not because the computer is thinking, it's that the programs have been designed to be that convincing. We're intentionally tricking ourselves into this existential crisis. But it's kind of a good thing, because now there's a genuine and scientific need to put resources into answering this question. As technology advances, we will create more explicit definitions of intelligence, awareness, and what it means to be alive. And that could help us uncover our own consciousness. Maybe by looking at our creations, we can trace our own roots and find what we need within ourselves. Sadly, we are only a smidge closer to uncovering what consciousness is. The worst case scenario is stumbling upon it by accident and developing consciousness in a machine before we know what to do with it. Although I can think of a few things it would be used for.